Hello, everyone. Welcome to eSight Vision Central for Thanksgiving and Black Friday activities with eSight Go today on November 21st, 2025. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today ahead of the Thanksgiving holidays in the U.S. So today, for agenda, we're going to do some introduction housekeeping, discuss the eSight Go MSRP, discuss who would be a good candidate for eSight Go, and then get into a topic of discussion this month, which is Thanksgiving and Black Friday activities. So for introduction, this is live, so things might happen. To raise your hand at the end of the meeting, if you have questions, press Control, Shift, and K on a PC, or Command, Shift, and K on a Mac. And this session should only take about 30 to 45 minutes. To access any old Vision Center webinar recordings, you can go to our eSight YouTube channel at youtube.com/eSight. So the eSight Go MSRP, the MSRP for eSight Go is as follows. For the US, the eSight is $4,950, and the MSRP Canadian is for $6,600. Now, this discussion here is for candidates for eSight Go. As eSight coaches, we are not really able to say whether you're a specific condition or whether you'll be a good candidate for eSight Go. I recommend calling in to Gentech to discuss that. But here's some general kind of outlines for those that are joining this meeting to want to, learn more information on whether they might be a good candidate for eSight Go or not. So eSight Go is designed to help those with an acuity of 2080 to 2600, and eSight Go is designed to help those with central vision loss. One of the requirements for eSight Go to help properly enhance someone's vision is to have some functional peripheral vision. eSight Go was designed to assist a variety of visual conditions, but conditions that affect peripheral vision, such as glaucoma and retinitis pigmentosa, can be a bit more challenging to assist due to how they affect the peripheral vision. That's just something to keep in mind. So we're going to get into our topic of discussion today for Thanksgiving and Black Friday activities. So we're going to be talking about watching football, card playing, Black Friday shopping with Leah online, and then out and about with eSight Go with Jeanette. So our first topic of discussion will be after Thanksgiving meal or before. I'm not sure when, Cabo, you can get into it, but the football and discuss that.
Football. So with this eSight Go, I have never had better TV viewing experiences, especially with sports. The tilt feature I find especially useful. So with the eSight Go, default, you have to point the camera where you want it to show you. But there is a tilt. When you click the mode button a few times, it gets there, and you can go tilt -1, 2, 3, 4, and go down 12 degrees. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but that is a good amount of real estate. And I like to sit in my recliner chair. And if my camera was pointing at tilt 0, it'd be looking at the ceiling. But I've got it tilted down and looking at the TV, and I can look underneath my eSight with my naked eye and see the TV that way. Because most of the time in sports, it is cutting between a wider view and a narrower view, a tighter view. And in football, as the play is going on, it's a wide view from the sideline and you see both teams. And I need my eSight for that. So I'm at times 15 zoom or something like that. But then in between plays, they switch to a close up of the quarterback. And now I'm times 15 zoomed looking up his nostril. And I don't want that. So I want to easily shift my eyes from my eSight just pointed down to my naked eye view and see the TV. And my vision isn't great, but I can see, okay, there's a giant head on the screen, and okay, now they're back to the view, the play's about to start, and I can see it. I find it pretty easy to follow the action in football. It's a big oval brown ball. Even if you can't follow the ball in air, you can see whether it's a run or a pass. You can see which direction the quarterback throws it. And then you can shift your gaze in that direction, and you can easily find the players who are trying to catch the ball, and you'll see if it was a completed pass or not. Um, if you are going to a live game, it does depend on where you're sitting. I'm out in Los Angeles, and we have SoFi Stadium, which is the newest NFL stadium. It's humongous. Second to last row for the Steelers versus Chargers was $250, and that's all I could afford. I was so high up, I was above the jumbotron, and with the eSight, I could see the action. I could follow it. It was, I think, I was at maximum zoom, so it is a digital zoom. Some degradation is normal, and it's better than the alternative, but hard to beat the TV coverage. But if you can afford slightly better seats, when I've gone to high school football games, it's been great. And other sports, I had a lot of success watching baseball also. That can be a little bit tougher because it's a little white ball. But again, you can tell which way the action's going and follow it pretty easily. And even if you can't, just being able to see the scoreboards and see what down and distance it is, how much time's left in the quarter, makes a big difference. Because without this, I am constantly asking my wife, is it third down or fourth down? How many yards to go? How many timeouts they got left? Now I can see all that stuff. Um, yeah, there's an exposure feature. So if your computer screen or TV screen is a little bit too bright, and the camera isn't adjusting itself enough, the colors can be a little washed out. And so if you're watching Thursday Night Football and it's the Bills in their white uniforms, they could kind of appear ghostly, and you might not be able to see the player number. And you can go into mode and go to exposure and manually dial down the exposure. And it's like you're putting on sunglasses, and that will reduce that glare from the bright light. And so that's a nice tool. Same thing if you're in person in a stadium. I was at a high school football game, and by default, the camera wasn't lowering the exposure enough. The bright stadium lights reflecting off the uniforms, everybody was kind of fuzzy. Lower the exposure, it gives it a nice little tint. It crispens everything up. So that's a nice tool for you too if you're dealing with any of that. Trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, just to give that tilt feature a shot. I think it's really because typically you're not going to want to just stare through the eSight the entire time. And so being able to switch between your naked eye and the eSight is really nice.
Right. Okay, thank you, Cosmo. Excellent.
Mhm.
And next, going to talk about card playing with Richard.
All right, thanks, Tyler. So, I think probably in a lot of households, but especially in the Midwest, we have kind of tradition when we get together for, bigger holidays with more family, playing cards after the meal. Um, we always played euchre, but you might play penny any, whatever it may be. These concepts are going to apply and help you. So obviously everything with like it kind of starts with that zoom. When you're playing cards, start with that in the same way. Zoom in to be able to see the cards that you're holding, but also be able to zoom in and see if there are, if you're playing a game where you have cards on the table, you can, zoom in with that. Now after your regular zoom, let's say that's the first thing that you're going to do. Then the next thing that I typically like to do, especially when you're playing cards or anything like on a table like that. You've heard Cosmo talk about the tilt. That's the next spot that I go to is to go to that tilt. And tilt's going to do a couple things when you're playing cards. One, you can tilt down and see those cards in the middle of the table a lot easier. Two, and I just had someone tell me that they did this the other day, and I was like, "Ooh, that is a good tip." So they used the tilt at maximum to be able to hold their cards lower, so they didn't reflect in the glasses at all, and they were just playing Uno or whatever. But so that's another good use of the tilt. Now, let's say that you're playing a game where maybe you want to be able to kind of see what people's facial expressions might be doing, right? Then that is a time when I'm going to recommend something that came in with the last update called Quick Zoom. So what Quick Zoom is on your remote in your upper left-hand corner, there's the Finder button. Now, if you press this button at a magnification of 1, it will do what we call a Quick Zoom, which means it will show a little box on your screen and then it's going to zoom in to a preset magnification that you've set. So for example, you can be looking around the card table, you can be looking at everyone without magnification. You can hold the Finder button down and look to, the cards in the middle of the table, and it's going to zoom in to that preset, number that you set. So it's a really good way to be able to zoom in on cards or zoom in on someone's faces, but for the rest of the game, you restore your field of view. So that's another really nice technique. Now, you can also do the opposite with the Finder, which means you could zoom in on those cards and hold the Finder down. If you do it in that way, it will knock the eSight out of magnification. So the rule of thumb is if you are in a magnification of 1 and you press the Finder, it will quick zoom. If you are on any other magnification, it will act as the Finder. If you need to adjust your quick zoom number, you can just go straight into your menu, go into your settings, and then go down to your quick zoom, and then you can pick what level of magnification you want to be set at that. So, and then that way you won't, you'll see it if you come across someone's little tell when every time you know that they're bluffing. So the last thing I want to talk about is something that is so important. It's been so helpful to me, and that is your hand-eye coordination. And this comes in, very important when you're playing cards. So back when I first started my eSight journey and I was doing coaching, my coach taught me to find the end of my pen when I was writing, and that's how I developed my hand-eye coordination. And you can do the same thing by looking for the end of your finger. Find the end of your finger and you follow that when you go to reach for those cards. But you can practice this, beforehand, and that will help you develop that kind of hand-eye coordination with that magnification that you're used to. So you find your finger and then you follow it to wherever you're going. So, and like I said, that's going to be helpful when you're discarding or if you're picking up something from a pile, so on and so forth. So those are my tips for your card playing holiday. And yeah, I hope everyone has a great one.
Thank you, Richard. That was great. And next, we're going to talk about online Black Friday shopping with Leah. And Leah put together a video. Before I play the video, Leah, any words on this?
No, I think it covers everything.
Okay.
So yeah.
Alrighty. Let's be able to see that. I'm going to hit play.
Hey there all. So we're going to be doing a little bit of Black Friday shopping. And the website that I'm going to take you to, you can actually use year-round. You don't just have to save it for Black Friday. So with my eSight on, I have found my mouse pointer on my monitor. And now I am just going to follow it up to the browser input spot to where I will type in the web address for this website. We're going to type in the web address gotadeal.com. Like I was saying, this website can actually be used year-round, not just for Black Friday. So you can see the main panel here. You have the name right at the top. And then underneath that, you have some categories that we can follow. Deals is their year-round deals that are offered. So if you're ever looking for something in particular, you can go to this page and see what is for sale in that particular category. Offers, or if there's any sales or coupons that apply to a particular store, they have all the stores listed that you can go in and check to see what those are individually. Stores is just a direct link to every single store that they have listed. It's nice because there are pictures of the stores themselves, the icons, so they're easy to identify. Our alerts is just if there's anything going on the website, and you can sign up there for their free newsletter there. Sales is a breakdown of each of the individual categories that you can choose from, and if there's any toy catalogs or anything like that, then you can find them there. What we are looking for is the Black Friday tag, and that is it right there. Now, just as a warning, I will be using my Finder feature on the remote control. That is the small button in the upper left corner quite often here, just to be able to zoom in on what I want to see and then helping me reorient myself with the page and to just make things a little bit easier. So just a warning on that you'll see a lot of back and forth with the Finder. So we're going to click on Black Friday and it will bring up the main page. So what you're going to see on this main page is that the articles for the Black Friday sales are put in as they come in. So your older articles, maybe anything that came out in October, any alerts like that came out in October are going to be further down the page. The newest ones are going to be towards the top. And they do put dates of when these pages were updated, of when things were released. So you'll have that. And a lot of times when you click on the, we'll just call it an article. I'm not really sure what it would be called, but when you click on it, it will either take you directly to the website or it will actually take you to a scan of the sales paper, of the catalog. And that way you can use your eSight easily on the computer to read the sales catalog at your own pace, or you can even use your computer's accessibility features to zoom in on certain things. Then over here on the right side of this Black Friday page, there is a countdown to how long you have before Black Friday, as well as any of the deals that have come through. You have the Black Friday sales that have released so far, and this is constantly getting updated. And then you also have the limited time sales. And those are ones that are on special dates or through extended time frames. Since I believe probably 2020 with the pandemic and everything, a lot of stores have started breaking up their Black Friday deals to where it's not just on Thursday and Friday of Thanksgiving and the day after. They actually spread it out for several weeks, if not even a full month before Thanksgiving, just so that way there's not a huge rush to the stores like there used to be. Like I said earlier, clicking on the links will most of the time take you to the respective stores that the link goes to. And it's just a really good way to where if you have a lot of people that you have to shop for, and especially if you have kids, if you can't get out of the house without them coming with you, it makes it really hard to surprise them with things. So online shopping is really the best way to go. Just make sure you purchase things in more than enough time for shipping issues to arise. And again, this site is good year round. They originally started back in 2004 with just Black Friday deals, and they have morphed into having year-round sales and alerting people of them and stuff like that. So if you're ever interested in a particular item for anybody, check here first and see if there's actually a deal on it from a store that you might not have thought of originally. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you, Leah.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Yeah. Okay, excellent. And then next, we're going to talk about Out and About with eSight Go with Jeanette.
Thank you so much, Tyler. So out and about, I did think of actually going out and about around the holiday period. Many people don't. They like to stay in and be cozy. But of course, I live in a hot state called Florida, the Sunshine State. And so, one of my thoughts is, hey, go out, enjoy. Of course, you could go dining. Some people like to go dining on Good Friday, and in which case you may want to use your eSight for looking at menus when you're out and about. A lot of places, one of my favorites is Panera, I have to say, but there are many others that I like too. But those sorts of places typically have menus on the wall. So for that, I find using the tilt, which I know that Cosmo and Richard have both mentioned the tilt feature on eSight Go. And what I particularly like about the tilt is that you can actually tilt it up, tilt it down without having to move your eSight. So the camera will do the work for you. So for example, if you're looking up towards the wall, I would tend to put my tilt at 0, which sounds like 0 should be aiming straight ahead of you. The camera should be looking ahead of you. That's not actually the case. So on eSight Go, the 0 is actually pointing quite high up towards the ceiling. Then you've got -1, which is slightly higher than the eye level. -2 is, I would say, pretty much straight ahead. -3 is looking down. -4 is looking very, very much down toward the floor. So I would typically set my eSight to 0, which is looking up. And then, once you've identified where the menu is, then you can zoom up and look at the items in the menu. If you want to take some time to see what you're going to be looking at, maybe you just use a little tiny bit of zoom, enough to get the whole menu into your eSight, but not so much that you can actually really read it. And then you could press and hold your menu button, which is the bottom button on your remote, or the very back button on the arm of the eSight device. Just press and hold it for a couple of seconds and it's going to freeze the image. So it's like a temporary photograph. And then what you're going to do is you're going to zoom up on that, and you can stand aside and just look at the menu at your leisure. Take the time that you want to. It's not going to go away until you actually unpause that image by unfreezing, which is pressing and holding that menu button again to unfreeze. And then you'll be put back to where you were before on the level of zoom that you had before you froze. And that can be really handy. So that's one feature that people like to use when they are browsing, a restaurant menu that's typically on the wall. And then, of course, when you're sitting and eating your lovely Thanksgiving meal out in a restaurant, you can, use, use your tilt and your zoom again to look down at what's on your plate. I find also that kind of using the tilt a little bit to just look down a little bit, maybe -3 perhaps, and using a little zoom. I find that that's very good. I also find that what Richard mentioned earlier for the card playing the quick zoom is very nice, because sometimes you don't want a lot of zoom when you're eating. You just want to have maybe the lowest level of zoom, which is level 1, but perhaps you want to zoom in on something very quickly, or it could be a person who's speaking at the other end of the table and you want to suddenly look at them, and you can press and hold that quick zoom, and then it's going to zoom you in very quickly on whatever it is that you're looking at, without you having to press and press and press the zoom to get to the level that you want. So that's very clever. And then you can obviously let go of that button, and there you are back on zoom level 1 again. So that's the restaurant part of out and about. Shopping is another thing that people sometimes like to do in person still on Black Friday, or any other day of the year indeed. And what I find with using eSight, if, for example, let's just say you're going to a general store, like, I don't know, it could be Kohl's, or could be Walmart, or could be Oh, I don't know. Any sorts of stores, or maybe you're going to go to a closed store like White House Black Market or something, and you want to look at the pricing on something. You have a garment and you really like it, and you want to look at the pricing. You can obviously find the tag, and then hold it about 8 to 10 inches away from you. And some people can see the different colors on the tag. Sometimes, there's a little bit of red where there's a reduction, and, but they can't see the price. So again, you could use that tilt feature to look down a little bit on your eSight, and then you can use your zoom very carefully to zoom up little by little and then find that price. Some people, again, like to use the freeze function, which again is pressing and holding that menu button until the picture suddenly gets still, and then you can take your time and zoom up. The reason why some people like to do that is if they need to use a lot of zoom in live mode, they find that they're moving their heads around, and it can kind of become a little shaky for them because they're having to move the head from left to right quite a bit to see where the actual pricing is. Whereas if you freeze the image, it really stabilizes it. And then what you're zooming up on is an image that's already focused. It's already been streamlined. It's just that now you're just zooming up on that. And so it's much more stable, and you can then see the price of the item that you're looking at. So that's shopping. Finally, if you're walking around with your eSight, this takes a little practice if you're a new user at eSight Go. I personally find that adjusting my nose piece, so I don't know if you probably can't see what I'm doing right now because it's not really spotlighted, but I'm squeezing my nose piece that I'm wearing with the eSight together. And what that's doing is it's kind of raising my eSight up a little more so that I've got my eSight in the upper part of my vision. So what I find when I'm walking along with my eSight, and everybody uses their eSight differently, okay? So I like to use the peripheral vision that I've got and the central, whatever vision that I've got. I will walk along and I'll look up into the eSight when I want to see something specific. So I might be walking along and I might see an object in the distance and not know what it is. Okay, it might be the name of a store that I'm looking for, but I like to use my general functional vision to have a general picture of what's around. But then I might want to look up into the eSight to identify something specific. For example, I can see something, a large red object or something in front of me, far away in front of me, and I want to see it. So I'll look up into my eSight where I've got a slightly zoomed image and a more superior view, and then I will capture that image and see the detail of it with my eSight. Same thing with a shop sign. I might generally notice what the stores look like, and I may have a general recollection of what all the different stores are. You see stores with clothing in front or mannequins, you see stores with, I don't know, jewelry fronts and things like that. But maybe you want to know a specific name of the store. And this is where if you can't see it without your eSight, you just see the general picture. You can look up into the eSight and then see the actual name of the store. And also it's just generally a very nice mobility aid, even though it doesn't replace your mobility aids, but it's a nice enhancement. So you can actually use it as I say, to identify objects that are in front of you, especially if you don't know what they are. And if you're in different light settings, if you're in bright sunlight, you can use the exposure, as Cosmo said earlier. It sort of becomes like a pair of sunglasses, if you like, in that you lower that exposure and the brightness lowers a little bit for you. If you're in a lower level of lighting, you can actually raise that exposure, and actually it can really help in low lighting settings as well, like restaurants in the evening or a darkened room. When you're watching TV, you can, you've already been through that, so you can sort of change the screen there. But that is, in short, out and about. So we've looked at shopping, out and about. We've looked at walking with the eSight. We've looked at dining with the eSight and looking at menus. And I would conclude by saying happy eSight holidays.
Thank you very much, Jeanette. Perfect. Excellent. Well, that was our last topic for today. If anyone has any questions about the topic, feel free to raise your hand, and my colleague Devesh will assist with your question here. So, Devesh, if there's any hands being raised, please let me know. Is there any questions there, Devesh, that you're aware of?
No, so I
No.
don't see any hands up. No.
Okay, all right. Well, no problem. Well, if anyone does have any questions or want to discuss these topics in detail with the eSight coach, you can feel free to reach out and get more detailed discussion on any of these activities. You know, if you want to practice these things, cloud playing and so forth, or you're watching TV, feel free to reach out to your coach. Be happy to chat with you. And I want to thank everyone for joining this month's Vision Central today on November 21st for Thanksgiving and Black Friday activities. And looking forward to seeing everyone next month in December. Thank you, and have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.